Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Almost the end of the conference. It's, how's everyone doing? Still surviving? All right. So today in this session, we're going to talk about Harness, who Harness is, what we do, and will have a fireside chat with Marriott, one of the customers of Harness, and how Marriott has transformed their DevOps and their software engineering using Harness. So I'll start with introducing who Harness is. Our mission at Harness, that we have all the developers, software engineers in the world writing a lot of code, writing much more code now with AI. How do we enable them to ship all that code very quickly, reliably, efficiently, and securely? But if you look at what's happening with AI, the biggest conversation everywhere in the world of software engineering is AI. But a lot of the focus is AI on coding, and everyone has adopted in one way or other. Everyone is using it either through your business, you are using it personally, vibe coding, AI agents for coding, which is really powerful. But if you look at these numbers from Google's DORA research, 25% increase in code volume using AI, but there is a 7.2% decrease in the delivery stability, and 1.5% decrease in the delivery throughput. So why is that happening? Like, you're writing more code, everyone would think, if you write more code, you're going to ship much more code. But that's not really happening. A big part of that is coding is not everything that you do as software engineering. The inner loop of software engineering, that you spec something and you write code, that's only the first 30-40% of the time that an engineering team will do. Then you give it to the outer loop, when it goes out of the developer's laptop, that's at least 60-70% of the time that you spend doing all kind of things from testing, securing, deploying, optimizing. And if you look at in those buckets, the testing, securing, deploying, optimize, there's so many workflows you have to do. Like, if you just look at testing, unit testing, integration testing, load testing, resiliency testing, API testing, UI testing. If you look at your security, you have the code security scans, API security scans, supply chain scans, audit approvals, governance approvals, policy checks. If you look at what you have to do for deployment, code deployment, feature flags, database deployments, infrastructure as code, infrastructure changes, artifact management. Look at, and then you have to optimize it all: the cost of the cloud, cost of AI, cost of data, cost of your teams and processes. That's where a lot of the software engineering time goes, 60-70% of the time. You saw all these workflows that historically has been a big painful process for people to do, like everything, these 30+ complex workflows. With AI, the code volume is going up. There's 4x more code volume there, in many companies. You see 20-25% pretty often, but we're gonna very soon be at least in 4x. But if you don't have the downstream outer loop optimized, we're not gonna get the throughput out of it. And that's where if you look at the testing processes, a lot of manual steps. The security is mostly siloed away from DevOps and the deployment systems. Deployments are mostly still written through scripting. People, you take your CI, from the old kind of CIs and add deployment scripting on top of it. And optimization, a lot of people still have a lot of inefficiencies you see everywhere, from cloud costs, all kind of costs that are happening everywhere. That's what Harness is looking to solve. Harness is a platform for software delivery and bringing AI and automation to the entire software delivery process. So Harness is built off many modules to help you through all of that process. Like, so you use AI to help write code better, code faster, and be much more efficient in coding. And Harness becomes the automation and AI solution to help you after that, which is increase your velocity, next generation CI/CD, next generation infrastructure as code, database DevOps, artifact registry, cloud developer environments, all kind of things that you need to do to modernize your DevOps practices, that so that you can ship the code really, really fast. All the software for reliability, to increase your reliability, whether it's feature flags and feature experimentation, chaos engineering, AI SRE, AI test automation, so you can replace your Selenium and Playwrights and all those kind of scripting with AI agents doing the testing. Security work, a lot of the app security work that you have to do on code security scans, API security, supply chain security, and then optimizing it all, from your cloud cost, and then you have the engineering metrics, to to understand where the inefficiencies are. Where in your engineering processes, where the cost inefficiencies are, so you can increase that. So Harness platform, it's a platform of all of these capabilities. Our customers will normally pick and choose where they want to start with. Most of our customers start by modernizing their CI/CD, replacing the old CI/CD system, so you can have fully automated process of code. A developer writes code, and every check, every test, every control, every check and balance is all fully automated in the CI/CD pipelines. Then our customers start adding security testing, resilience testing, UI testing, FinOps, all kind of other practices in these modern pipelines. So you can have a fully automated process, and get significant productivity boost in doing this. All of this uses an underlying AI foundation, which is built of a few areas. Number one is the AI agents. So we have a whole library of AI agents to do all these tasks. AI agents to do DevOps tasks, create CI/CD pipelines, troubleshoot a deployment failure, a build failure, set up policies around governance policies, templates, release agents to make sure you can have the feature experiments and the feature releases and the rollouts set up properly. Reliability testing, UI testing, security. So these agents are doing all the work that you would do normally through a lot of manual DevOps kind of work to set up your SDLC practices. But the agents are, as I'm sure in the whole conference you've heard a lot about the context engineering. But that's a very important part of what we provide. Your businesses, your enterprises have a lot of context around how your services work, how your environments work, which infrastructure you're running on, what your security policies are, what tests you do, how your team structure look like. There are all kind of things that you have to do, always. And that's what we are capturing in a knowledge graph, that we understand the knowledge graph of any organization, any software engineering team, where all the things are. And that knowledge graph is the context that, how the AI agents will use to do something. So for example, if we go to our AI, say, create me a CI/CD pipeline for, my deployment. Now it's if you just create a generic stuff, like if you go to ChatGPT, you're gonna see a generic some answer there. That's not useful for any organization, any enterprise. So that's where the context comes in. In the context, we understand, what does it mean? What does your deployment policies mean? What are your templates? What your security controls are? What infrastructure you're running on? What are your requirements that you need to run there? Where things are connected with each other? What secret systems you use? All of that's part of the context that we'll use to set up things. And then we have the underlying orchestration layer. Everything that the AI agents are doing. The orchestration layer is still, could still be deterministic around it. So you can control what you want AI agents to do. You want AI agents to go and do a deployment in production, or you want for them to create a pipeline that will more deterministically do a deployment in production. So you have the full spectrum of how much control AI takes over and how much your deterministic automation takes over, and that's what will allow you to do. We have about 1,000 plus enterprise customers using Harness in big ways to solve these problems. You'll see a lot of logos here. A lot of large banks, large technology companies, insurance companies, airlines, hospitality companies. You'll hear from Marriott soon here. And we are doing it at very large scale. Just in the last 12 months on Harness platform, there were 128 million deployments that happened through Harness platform. We had 81 million builds that happened through Harness platform. 11 billion tests we optimized through our AI-based test optimization. $1.2 trillion API calls we watched and secured. 14 trillion feature flag evaluations, 5 million security scans, $1.9 billion of cloud cost optimized, and a lot of people using these agents to do these tasks now. So we are very very proud that we were able to solve these problems for many organizations, and we're recognized by Gartner and Forrester as the leaders. In the Gartner Magic Quadrant for DevOps platforms, Harness is a leader. The Forrester Wave for DevOps platforms, Harness is a leader now. And we have a very strong partnership with AWS. We work very closely with AWS. Everything that we do with our AI is exposed through a lot of MCP tools in our MCP server, and all of those are integrated in Amazon Keto and any kind of coding systems. We're very deep partnership with Amazon. We are deployment ready on AWS, and working very closely with the product teams and the innovation as we drive our innovation on our knowledge graphs and our MCPs. So if you are on AWS, which we can definitely help you there. So I'm going to invite our field CTO Nick here on the stage to show you a demo of the Harness platform, so you can see for real. And once after the demo, we'll have Adnan and Sean from Marriott join us, and we'll have a conversation on how they're using Harness.
All right. I'm going to try to keep this as brief, but also hopefully a little bit entertaining, give you some context. I'm going to show you a lot of what Harness does. I'm not going to talk about it in the modular ways of what we're doing, but we're going to show you what this could look like, just to give you some kind of ideas of how this works. I'll show you the AI throughout this entire process, because the whole point of this is about removing the worst part of the job, right? If we think about where all the AI has been spent, it's actually been the things we love doing, like planning and then actually like critically thinking and going through these things and developing software. But now let's actually take away the things we hate doing, whether it be running tests and waiting for them to run or security. So let me walk through what this can look like for you and how easy it is to set up and configure. But also let's talk about how we make this easy to do the right thing. We want to make sure you have templates so that it's very quick and easy to get to production, but also make sure that it's hard to do the wrong things. And I know those are two very basic statements, but we have to put policy in place to make sure we're not skipping steps. We're not commenting out that security scan on accident. So making sure that we have all of the things so we know what goes to production. What you're looking at right now is a pipeline. It's very specifically designed to go from, we've got a build stage, we're going to do infrastructure stand-up, we're going to deploy to multiple different environments. And every step of the way you can see exactly what we're doing. So anything that we're doing, it's entirely audited. Every step of the way you can see everything we've executed. You can see the input variables, you can see the output variables. Everything's here for you to know exactly what happened and how it happened. But more importantly, what we really want to do is we want to save you that time. So one of the things you'll notice we call out really quickly is that we're saving you about 18, 19 minutes worth of time by doing things intelligently. So for instance, if I do a 200-line code change, right? I don't want to run all 12,000 unit tests. That wouldn't necessarily make sense because it's a very small change. So Harness now understands exactly what's correlated with the change that you made and the test. So we can go ahead and correlate and understand. Here's the changes that we made, the tests associated with it. So now instead of running all 12,000, I can run about 10% of those. So right there alone, saving about 8 minutes by simply running the tests, again, that are associated with the change. Right, if I have new tests, fine, I'll run those. Or if they're updated tests, I'll have to run those. I don't know how they're going to respond, so I need to see them. But at the end of the day, again, take care of that pain. Every single build, now we're cutting that time away from your folks. Another big one for folks oftentimes is dealing with security vulnerabilities. Right, we've got tons of different scanners. So whether they're SCA scanners, so our code scanners, whether they're SAST, right, all the different SAST scanners, as you go through infrastructure scanners, so forth, and even container scanners. The issue is that it's very hard, it's very difficult to go and actually get through and find the noise throughout that or find the signal through the noise. And so how do we start prioritizing those? How do we deduplicate those? How do we start actually doing something that's valuable? So one of the things that we can do for you very quickly is what we'll go do is we'll automatically go and aggregate, normalize, and deduplicate all of those vulnerabilities for you. And if it's a code base, so not changing a library, but if there's an actual code change that needs to happen, you don't want to see all 31 occurrences that this sit inside of your entire environment. We can show you them. But we want it aggregated. We want to know what's valuable to change. And then most importantly, I want to be able to give you an AI response of like, how would we go do this? That's fine, but in the reality today, what would happen is somebody go build me a spreadsheet, I'd take that spreadsheet, I'd turn it into Jira tickets, those Jira tickets would go into a backlog, and 2 weeks later, somebody might go fix that critical vulnerability. And instead, why would we do that? Why wouldn't we have Harness just go and understand the lines of code with that knowledge graph that Jyoti talked about? I can know the lines of code, I know the vulnerability, I can actually just go ahead and write you the PR. Here's how you fix it. So you don't have to go through the process and think about it and go through this. These are the things we hate doing. Let's let Harness handle that portion for you so that you can go ahead and, again, do the things that you love. Right? So again, this is just in the build phase, right? Just very simple things, thinking about things like your best engineers, taking away all the extra work and the toil that we don't want to go through. As this progresses forward, we're going to build that full bill of materials for you so you can make sure you know what's in that artifact. You're going to have the attestations to prove this is that same artifact so that you don't have an attack that they're going to do through your supply chain. We know this is the exact artifact. We know what it's built. Right? And so all throughout this process, only ever progressing forward if and only if this actually meets those requirements. Right? So after this one was, we did our build, now we're going to go stand up some infrastructure. And so the benefit here is we're going to go look at that infrastructure, and the neat parts is that not only do I want to go and make the assumption of like, okay, great, we're going to do that plan, we're going to do that apply, but what's it going to cost me? And I can actually go ahead and I can actually look at the estimated costs in that environment, and I can go look, hey, this is going to 19x my costs. Maybe I should pause that infrastructure change until someone actually says and approves that. So the policy can even be in the cost of what's changing. We want to bring that information now when it's valuable, not a month later when it's sitting there running in production. Right. As we go through this, now we've stood up the infrastructure, we've done the build, we've done the infrastructure. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at our deployments into dev. We're going QA, staging. And again, following that same pipeline, being able to see and audit every single thing that we've done, it's going to go through that, making sure it's that same bill of materials, we've got that same salsa check. It's going to make sure that we're integrating with all of your ticketing systems. So now I'm updating Jira, I'm updating ServiceNow, I'm putting the evidence in the places that are needed so that I don't have to do that collection anymore. Right? Again, tasks we don't want to do. This is going to go through, this is going to do that application. It's also going to make the database change for you. So it's going to roll out in a way that's meaningful, but also a way that can roll back in the same capacity. So we'll go ahead and roll out those database changes. And then ultimately, this is just going to roll out to the dev environment. We'll go do some tests. If it's great, we'll update the tickets, right? And we can see this thing kind of progress through. In QA, it's almost the same pipeline, but we're going to add a whole bunch of tests. So we're going to go run those tests where our AI can actually go ahead and design and create those tests on the fly. If I move a button and change a button or change a color, I don't want to go put an X path somewhere. I can have this determine it for me. But I can also run all the resiliency checks throughout the process. So now when we think about, I want to make sure that I've got enough replicas. I want to make sure that I can handle an outage. I'm going to keep my order. All of the things that I want to prevent, I can have those actually running as chaos tests for us. And again, only ever move forward if it meets those requirements that I have. If it doesn't meet my resiliency requirements, don't worry about it. Pause the pipeline, stop, go fix them, right? So you can continue forward. I'll go to one last one really quickly. I don't want to spend too much time. And in production, we've been doing this for the last 8 years. We started and we came to the market when we first started as bringing AI to continuous delivery. That was in 2018, so be very clear, it was not generative AI. This was predictive modeling, it was neural networks, it was machine learning. But it was thinking about deployments like your best engineers. The idea here is that if I'm going to look at the APM metrics, if I'm going to look at the logs, like I don't want to have my best engineer on the phone every time to figure out what that should look like. So the intention, very simply, and I'll show it to you, is that as we go through this process, as you'll see, it's going to go through the production deployment. Again, checking and validating all the critical vulnerabilities, making sure that this is the same artifact, updating the tickets, rolling through the database changes, doing complex deployments like a canary. But now it's going to actually go verify, and it's going to look at the things that matter to you. So let me actually go over here. There we go. So right now, it's going to look at all the metrics that you care about. So think about your response times, your error rates, anything that you would actually consider those golden metrics, any time series metrics. This for even, so some of our customers, it's actually revenue generation. So when I do an experiment and I want to see if an ad's actually giving me better results, I can even use revenue as that time series metric. But now I'm going to go ahead and look at those and have an understanding. This shows me that I'm slow. If I'm slow as an engineer, the first thing I do is go look at the logs. Right? And here's the area that, there are certain known logs that we've got exceptions that happen. They shouldn't be there. And we'll show those. Like traditionally we don't highlight them. I'll turn them on so you can see them. But like here's an example. Like this is a null pointer exception. It should not exist. We know it shouldn't exist. However, it's there every single time we deploy. Right? So if I've been in the system a long time, I've been with a company, I know, okay, that's okay. It shouldn't be there, but it's okay. It's fine. We're going to do that same kind of concept. So what you actually care about, it's not about the things that we know about it. So what about those ones that change in frequency? And what about that brand new one, right, that happened for the first time? Those are the signals that we want to get to very quickly. And based on those failures, because Harness knows what you deployed, on which infrastructure, with which configuration, with which database changes, now we can actually get you back to where you were before you started, right? We'll go ahead, we'll kill that canary, right? We'll go ahead and roll back that database change, and then we'll update the tickets and all of the systems to make sure everyone knows exactly where we're at. We know why we rolled back, we know where the errors are, and you can get to what you need to. The whole point is to solve all of those problems that constantly take us that extra time so we can start focusing on the things that matter to the business. One last quick thing, and then I'll let the stage go up and what you're actually here for and listen to Marriott, is all of this should be a way that it can be a contribution model. Right? This is not someone sitting in an ivory tower building this very strict, rigorous template that's the only way you can get to production. It's made so that you can actually contribute. So even your developers, if they want to make changes, they can commit, go ahead, give me a PR, we can go and actually merge that and bring it into the system. But so you can do this in the UI, you can do this as config as code. But the best part about this is that now we can allow security teams, finance teams, they can start writing policies that make it very easy for us to do that right thing, but very hard for us to do the wrong thing. And so what I mean by that is like, let's take this whiz scan. Oftentimes, if you go look at your current CI and CD systems, developers will just go comment out the scan. The scan's taking too long, so they'll comment it out, they'll run the build, and then they'll turn it back on. If you don't believe me, go check your PRs. Like there's some people smiling, so trust me, that happens. You can't do that in Harness. I just deleted that whiz scan. I said, all right, I don't want it. I'm an admin on this account, I'm a full admin, I'm not even gonna do a PR, we're gonna push straight to main. But what you'll find very quickly is I can't. Those policies are put in place to make sure we all know the rules of the game, that we don't go and do something wrong and hinder our business. So it says you can't even save this pipeline because it doesn't have the required security steps that you need to go to production. So again, all of those can be built specifically with the context for your teams, for your organizations. You can have different setups for the different areas that you have, but the whole point is to make it extremely easy. We want everybody playing by the same rules so we can all go faster. I know that was a lot in a very short period of time, so hopefully that was just a very small subset of what we can do, but I wanted to kind of give you some of that AI to show you how it's truly removing that worst part of the job for you to help you then go back and do what you love. So.
Hey, thank you, Nick. So wanted to get you a glimpse of what Harness does and how it solves these problems. If you want to reimagine all your DevOps, DevSecOps, software delivery practices now in the age of AI, like why do you have to do so much developer toil? Why is it all this scripting? Why is it's such a mess? It's we can help you through that. Reimagine it all, automate it all, bring AI agents to it, and simplify the entire process. So you'll hear from Marriott. So I'm going to invite Adnan and Sean to join us here on the stage and share their journey on how they were able to transform their DevOps and software engineering through help of Harness. Please come on. So let's start by, everyone knows who Marriott is. I'm sure everyone has stayed in Marriott's hotel, but it would be great if you can, introduce, each of you. You'll do a much better job in doing that. And what role do you play at Marriott?
Sure. You want to start, Sean? Sure. I'll start. So I'm Sean Corkum, Senior Director of DevSecOps and Automation. I work within our DevOps team and also our internal developer portals to try to make our developers' lives easier.
I'm Adnan Haq, and I oversee our infrastructure platforms, all our global data centers, cloud practice, DevSecOps, and lately, service reliability engineering.
And you can imagine the Marriott's scale. Marriott is not just one brand. It's how many properties you have now?
We're approaching 10,000. We open, including acquisition, we open about a new property every 16 hours. Without acquisition, it's about 24 to 36 hours, give or take.
And 130 plus countries, right?
Yeah, 143 countries the last time I counted.
All right. So the countries are increasing there. All right. So we'll talk about transformation when any time like someone talks about any kind of transformation, it starts. Okay, what does transformation even mean? Is it so for a company like Marriott, where you have such a massive number of customers, consumers, so much complexity. When it comes to technology, modernization, transformation, what does it mean?
I think that's a great question. So typically, it depends on the vantage point of the person that's looking at it, right? For someone in the infra space, perhaps it means looking at cloud adoption. For someone in the application space, perhaps it's moving from monolithic systems to services-based architecture. From a business perspective, it's about more cross-sell opportunities, more upsell opportunities, higher revenue, right? Same thing can be said for the process side. They're looking at processes, how to streamline it. But to me, transformation is actually all of the above. They all have to happen at the same time in order for an organization to operate in a manner that increases its velocity and its ability to roll out its products and services at a faster pace. So if you really look at the crux of what enables that, it's moving away from the traditional concepts of blocking governance and bringing in technologies to automate where the default answer is no, you need an approval. The default answer is yes, you're approved, unless there's a reason not to approve it, right?
Automate the approval, and only the failure condition requires an approval,
Yeah.
not the normal condition.
And when you do that, you actually reduce the cognitive overload, right? You and Nick both talked about toil. And if you look at any of the team members that are trying to build a product, deliver something, a service, easily 30 to 40% of their time in a large enterprise, maybe even higher, is the cognitive overload of not developing that product or service, but everything else that has to be done. Change management, approvals, socialization, funding, managing the budgets, et cetera, right? And that's where that standardization can actually reduce the cognitive overload. And that's where we are really excited about Harness, because that's exactly what it does. That's where it plays. It reduces the cognitive load of our team members so that they can move faster at scale. And that leads us to the definition of modernization.
So what triggered for you guys, like, okay, let's go ahead and, you have old ways of doing things. What's like, at some point, like, okay, the frustration from it builds up. For many people, it's like, I'm more code coming out with AI or something is, we have to move to cloud, we have to do something, and let's rethink, why are we slowing down and where the developer toil is? What caused that?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a single thing. I think what leads an organization to transformation is a series of things that happen, right? When they grow fast, when the processes stop working, when the hidden factories that were created for a purpose at one point are now just running, and people are doing things just because that's how it's been done, right? So all of that was happening. The catalyst was COVID. Right? Marriott being a hospitality company, our biggest challenge was going through COVID when the hotels were literally boarded up. Right? So coming out of it, there was a unique opportunity to really rethink. The teams were reduced significantly just to keep the lights on. Investments obviously were difficult during that era. So when we started rebuilding, and when the demand actually, people talked about all these V-shaped recovery and W-shaped, and every alphabet, no one talked about an I-shaped recovery. That's what Marriott went through. We shot through the roof. We were trying to shut down our mainframes while we were buying new mainframes. So it was very interesting. So that kind of helped us in really reimagining how we want to operate as we move forward.
So with the I-shaped recovery, you have no other option. You have to move really, really fast.
You have to do everything. You have to keep the lights on. You can't say no to the demand that's coming in. You have to restart your properties, and you have to rethink how you're doing business, because the old processes were pretty broken at that point.
So how did you think about where to start? So, you're not moving fast enough in your innovation, or the move to digital, all the things that you need to do to, in that I-shaped recovery. So how did you think about, let's break the problems and figure out where to start?
Yeah, so it has to start with a vision. What is the problem that we're trying to solve? That's step number one. But vision can only give you so much. You have to really define it at the right level of success criteria that you want to achieve, right? And the flexibility that you need to have to deliver on that vision. So it's all about thinking big but delivering small, right? Looking at areas that had the largest blast radius and those small levers that could really create big waves, right? And identifying them and prioritizing them. And I feel that platforms is one area where you could actually, where you can rethink how a platform is operating. We actually rethought how infrastructure was operating, and we went from being an infrastructure team to becoming a platform team, right? And we said, we're going to build it once, we're going to standardize it, we're going to put all the security, control, governance, everything inside our platform so that our products can inherit it. And as a result, we're going to reduce the toil and the cognitive load on our engineers who are developing those products so that they don't have to redo it. It's also really important to have an agile mindset, And I'm not talking about a framework like SAFe, Scaled Agile Framework. I'm really talking about an agile mindset. Having the ability to change course at any point when you see that there is a better option, right? We can't live our lives on shortcuts, but we should always keep an eye for a shortcut. And if we find it, we should be able to have that agile mindset and not consider that as a weakness or a problem, but as an enablement for our teams to make those decisions, right, and move forward. Standardization is another area where I feel it's a small thing that reaps big results. Once we have standardized our deployment pipelines, right? Sean and his team standardized the deployment pipelines. That was a pretty big impact because now you've taken that overload, that cognitive load from the engineers, hundreds and thousands of engineers, by just building that one pipeline and standardizing it.
Yeah, that's the platform effect, right? You do it once. The move from DevOps teams and infrastructure teams to this is the ticket, do something to give a platform where everything is automated, standardized. It's simpler for everyone.
Absolutely, and that's a big part where Harness came in for us too, like being able to provide that. It's rich API systems that then allow us to create other automations and get to the point where developers are not having to look at a bunch of things, not having to have that tribal knowledge of I have to go talk to this person for this, that person for this, submit a ticket over here. For us internally, they can go right to our IDP. We call it the Developer's Concierge. And that can trigger and build everything right from off the bat. So like, I'm starting a new product, I can just go click, I need this microservice, sets them up in Harness, gets them completely configured, creates their repositories, gets them going, and really keeping your application developers like writing application code is incredibly important, and not having to think about all these other things like my security and this and that, like just help take that off their plate.
And just that one feature that Sean just talked about resulted in our time of about 6 months to build an integrated environment at a cost of roughly $500,000 to 35-minute self-service deployment. Wow. Engineers can do it in the middle of the night.
Great data point. That is the power of automation and standardization and simplification. That's what I was. When I talk about the impact of AI. This AI for coding and this AI for everything after coding, and the impact of AI for after coding could be big numbers like this. So thanks for sharing that. So when you guys looked at let's go and create this platform engineering concept and a developer concierge, and you started looking at tools, and the tool chain in the market has been there's all kind of older tool chain. There's next generation solutions like Harness. How did you guys maybe share with the people here? Why did you pick Harness?
Yeah, so for me, kind of going through things, I've gone through this rodeo before of helping a company kind of modernize this space. And one of the big things that I learned from that I wish I could go back and redo was the fact that you need something that you can actually have an auditable governance around. So like Nick was showing in his demo, engineers will just, that scan's failing, I don't want to deal with it right now, they'll remove it. And a lot of systems make it very difficult, not on purpose, but just because of how they were initially architected to kind of provide that governance. And when it came to Harness, having OPA baked right into the platform, now I can easily write a rego policy that will look across everything, and we were able to create these templates at the account level that everyone can inherit, but they can add to. They can't take out. There's always going to be little quirks about their individual applications that they'll need something, but they can't skip any of these processes anymore. And we didn't have to spend 8 months writing some custom process to build that governance around a different tool. We had this all right off the bat. Beyond that, Harness out of the box for us had significant advanced capabilities for the deployments. Like Nick had mentioned Canary. Doing Canary is actually a little complicated.
It is.
And we get it out of the box right there with this. So we were able to go from a system that was fire and forget So you don't know if your deployment actually succeeded, but it triggered something off to Kubernetes, to now being able to have it up, make sure it's running, watch it for however long we want, integrated with our APM tools, and really make sure it really is doing what we expected. And if it's not, let's go back. No harm, no foul to the system. Nobody noticed. Nobody's getting paged at 3 a.m. because of it. And we're all able to keep moving along. Harness was the only system out there that allowed us to really leapfrog a good 10 years from where we were to where I wanted to get us to in one shot.
And that's the definition of everything is approved unless it's not, right? As opposed to nothing is approved unless it is. But that level of automation that Harness has given us has really allowed us to implement that principle. And there are other areas, of course, in a transformation, but at least from a deployment perspective and canary releases and feature flags, and these are capabilities that are coming out of the box.
So how do you convince the dev teams? Like one of the things that we hear quite a lot is, the platform engineering team, the leadership team, very convinced that we got to modernize and automate everything. But the dev teams are used to doing certain things, like they have CI/CD systems, they've used for 5 years, 10 years, they've done some ways, and then there's a resistance that you have to overcome. So how did you guys do that?
For us, it's Adnan mentioned, we kind of followed that agile mindset within our space. We started small. Day one, piloting with Harness as we first started, we started dogfooding it ourselves. There were some teams, as we kept moving forward, some teams that were a little more interested in forward thinking. We started engaging with them. They started getting quick wins. So now we've got a couple of teams getting quick wins, and now their leadership groups are seeing like, oh, well, this group's delivering faster. And it can start growing organically versus just being like a mandate to shove down everybody's throat. They start going, oh, I can move faster, I can move safer, I'm not getting paged for things as much. I'm able to focus more on the thing I actually like to do, in writing my application. And it starts taking off like fire. So if you can build that kind of excitement and get your customers quick wins, start showing the value, makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, you have to get to this roughly 30 to 35% of mindset shift, right? Once you have that, I feel the teams build escape velocity. Then they just have to move forward, right? They continue on and just rinse and repeat. And for us to reach that 35%, like Sean said, we had to eat our own dog food. So we actually brought in Harness to automate the processes within the infrastructure and platforms team. We were still deploying infrastructure, but everything was being done through Harness. And once we figured out all the kinks, worked it out, and it was working stably, that's when we started the self-service with a few teams. And we said, you can do it anytime, you don't have to depend on us. And that one piece where a team doesn't have to depend on someone, an engineer doesn't have to depend on someone, that sells itself.
Yeah. And that's what engineers want. They don't want to depend on someone. They want they don't want to even know about most of those things. That's not their strength. It's good to, what you guys did is what we see as a successful model, because otherwise if you go from top down and say, go and replace your things, and people just don't do it.
It also helps when you can tell your engineers, I'll half your CI time.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. The results and the numbers, and I'm sure folks in the audience would love to hear what are the outcomes of all this, what we are able to achieve. So half the build time.
Yeah, so for us, our CI time dropped from roughly 12 minutes on our old platform down to 5. And this guy doesn't know it, but we actually did some tweaks about 2 weeks ago, and it's a little lower. We're closing in on 4 minutes for CI.
Nice. How much was it before?
It was 12, but the caveat on that was it was 12, but with less things in it. Mm-hmm. So moving into Harness, we've got all of those safeguards and all those extra bits to help start making things like auditability being more automated, where teams can just go, okay, here's a graph auditor, you got all the information you need, versus having to do 1,000 things because they only really did like a Docker build, maybe didn't even run their tests. Who knows? They now all have that, but we still shrunk the amount of time it took.
Yeah, the 12 to 5 is all the tweaks that were made within Harness, right? Pre-Harness era, I think it would be unfair to judge that as a 12-minute deployment because the amount of capabilities that we had using Jenkins were probably half of what we have today. So not only did we double the things that we're doing during deployment, checks, balances, whatever, OPA policies, et cetera, we also reduced the time on top of that, right? So the benefit is actually significantly better than what that metric tells from 12 to 5.5 minutes. It doesn't do justice.
And then going along with that too, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, our environment provisioning going down from like 6 months to
35 minutes.
35 minutes, tops, sometimes less, depending on what they need. And trying to do that level of automation previously with Jenkins was very challenging, to say the least. Harness's API system makes it significantly easier for us to be able to work with that and get it going.
And how do the security teams respond to this? Are they happy that
They are ecstatic that everything is getting scanned now. And when they want to find it and know what's going on, they can see it all, and they know everything we're getting, like all the SBOMs, the SALSA, all the artifact citing, all that's actually happening. They're like, thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah, it's the impact of modernizing, where you automate security is happy and developers are happy because they don't want to be chased by security and, did you run my scan or not and all that stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and once they know that it's going to happen automatically, they start removing those governance processes, those oversights, those meetings that you have to go to get the I approve message from all stakeholders, right? Change management meetings. All of that just starts to die on the vine by itself.
Yeah, that's what I like to say. Like the new cab is the no cab. Like your pipeline should be the cab. Like it's like
absolutely.
That's everything is in there. Like why do you need anything else? The automated pipeline should be the cab.
And what it does is it actually reduces a lot of escalations because the number of escalations that came to me, hey, we need an approval to move forward because of some fire drill, some issue, right? And now you're under pressure to approve or be that ass who's going to say no, go back, fix it. You automate it, you kind of remove yourself from the picture. It's the system.
As a boss, the thing that I hate the most is like someone asks me to approve something, I don't know what I'm approving. Yeah. That's a big problem. Like when you are under that fire, like should I approve it? Did you do all the right things or not? What's the proof? And that's why you need all the some process that approving instead of you approving most of the times.
Yeah, absolutely, and it does it. And those weren't even the benefits that we were looking at. Those are just benefits that you get because you do it the right way, right? And you standardize the processes. It's also really important to not automate for the sake of automation, right? A lot of times organizations would automate toil. That's not really good automation. Yeah. You have to first simplify the process. You have to make sure it's completely streamlined, and then you automate.
Yeah, one of the things that we see in many organizations, like you have 10,000 pipelines, 20,000 pipelines that are built in Jenkins or something before. And when people say, I'm going to move to Harness, let me bring the 10,000 pipelines from Jenkins to Harness. So you lose the whole point. Like like you're taking the toil and the bad thing. In Harness, you probably need like 30 or 40 or 50, no more than that.
Mm-hmm. If that, I think we really have like less than 10 types, and that builds everything we need. And like I said, because of the fact that we can provide that level, they don't have to think it, but they can add to for the specific things they need. There's no reason for all those.
And now we're taking that same concept to, because of the scale of Marriott, we have systems that are more centralized in nature, like our global reservation system, right? It has to be in sync with each and every one of those 10,000 properties and the property management system. So we started using Harness more at those central systems, what we call above property. But now we're working on efforts where we're going to take it to at property workloads as well. And within that, maybe the 10 goes to 20 at most. But with those 20 pipelines, we're going to be deploying in 143 countries across multiple continents with different legal and policy challenges, right? Whether it's China or it's India or it's Germany or wherever, right? All of that built into the pipeline, just with a few patterns. That's the power of standardization and doing it the right way.
That's so great to hear. That's what we like to evangelize a lot. Like, if you standardize, every app team thinks their app is very different, but in the end, like, you have some patterns, like 10 patterns, 20 patterns, and you standardize, you gain so much, but you want to have the flexibility, a bit of flexibility there with the guardrails. So that's why we had this, OPA and templates, but you can still go and modify, but as you have to follow the guardrails.
Exactly. There's only so many ways to build a Docker image.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about AI a bit. It's hard not to talk about AI in the world of software engineering. So how are you guys thinking about AI, and how does AI play the role in future here?
To me, so coming from my vantage point of being in the DevOps space and whatnot, I think that particular area is so ripe for being able to take advantage of AI. There is so much that happens within, from going from story to production, and so much information that AI, being able to grab that context from what's changing in the code to what's changing in the environment to the tests, being able to look at all of that and start helping fix the little problems that we don't want to deal with. That is such like you saw on the graph, such a huge waste of application developers' times and talent. AI is, I think, really going to take a big chunk of that out and let them focus more on working with Cursor, Windsurf, Kiro, et cetera, and Claude Code, and focusing on their applications and being able to create amazing things and not have to worry about, oh, my unit test failed. Well, I've got a new CVE that popped up. Like, just let it, look at it, let it resolve it, give you the PR, so you still have a human in the loop to make sure it doesn't do something a little crazy, and go from there. And then the next step from there is, as that continues to mature and you build out better systems around that and the models continue to get better, you can stop thinking about that human in the loop on that PR and just let the pipeline handle it, because, as you said, the pipeline's the new cab.
Yeah, and a lot of this work people don't, people are struggling to do. It's like pipelines can do a lot of the automation, but you still need to bring AI to write the test, to interpret the outcomes of the test, maybe to fix the code if something failed. Developers don't really want to do it, and it's AI can do a better job on many of these things now. And to create all the checks and balances on the code coming in, one of the things that we keep hearing is the code volume with AI is very high. And like the same applications that used to have 1 million lines of code base will probably have, for the same functionality, like 2 or 3 million lines of code base now, because AI writes a lot of code.
It can be a little verbose sometimes.
Yeah. And it all goes back to that earlier comment around reducing the cognitive load, right? And I feel as we modernize and as we go more towards more advanced systems and ways to develop them, the definition of cognitive load also changes. So unit test becomes a cognitive load, right? Keeping tabs on all the different things that have to happen, starting from scratch, all of that becomes unnecessary things that if we allow AI to do that, then we in turn allow our engineers to really keep their eyes on the ball and really think about what the big picture is, what the real value is that they need to produce with that code, with that product, whatever it is that they're creating. And a lot of times, we engineers can't focus on that value. They take their eyes off the ball because they're just so inundated with all these million steps that have to happen before the value is even driven.
And many of those things, they will lose track, some balls will be dropped.
Yeah.
It's hard to just, keep up with everything that's going to happen, the million steps.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to the audience here if people are looking at, we have certain ways of doing things, CI/CD, but we are looking at modernizing and looking at Harness, what advice would you give to them?
I would say, particularly when you're looking to modernize within the CI/CD space, like I said it kind of jokingly earlier, like there's only so many ways to build a Docker image. Really kind of keeping that in mind, standardization will set you free in this space as much as any other. So having the ability to create a standardized template for the various types of applications that you'll need, it's huge. Don't drag along the old tech debt. Just let it die. Move on to the new system and let them start seeing the early wins. Find some teams in particular that are more forward thinking, that really want to get going in this, and work with them. Remember, they're your customer. So you need to make sure that their voice is heard and you're delivering them the product that they need as well.
100% agree. Early wins are extremely important, and they get overlooked. And the higher the velocity is, the more likely that you're going to get some early wins. So velocity also matters, right? Not speed, velocity, right? It's a vector quantity, so it's not the distance, it's the displacement, right? Between the 2 points. So you have to enable that somehow. And you have to build that escape velocity. Once you build it, then your work is done. The teams will take care of the rest of it, right? Any leader who thinks that it's going to go exactly how they thought it is, I would say, being naive, because most likely it's not going to go the way you're thinking, right? There's always going to be something that's going to hit you sideways when you least expect it. And that's where it's really important to be able to change direction as needed.
The agile mindset, start small, change direction if you need to,
Absolutely.
Change there. Because these are big changes, like, the transformational effect on software engineering is very high, but, people are resistant. So the number one thing that, always amazes me is, like, if you can cut down something from 6 months to 35 minutes, why would the organization resistant about it? But it's like people are set in doing ways to start small and get them there.
It's changing the hearts and minds, right? Especially over the last decade or so, technology is no longer the bottleneck. Everything is possible. Anything is possible. You can do it.
Use Harness and everything's possible.
That too, of course. But it's really changing the mindset, right? Organizations implement safe or agile practices, but they don't implement the agile mindset. They implement product model, but they don't build the level of accountability that needs to come with product model. They will bring in DevOps tool chain, but they will not bring in the culture of DevOps. You build it, you own it, soup to nuts, right? They will continue to operate in an operations versus project environment. So I think changing those mindsets and then leveraging tools like Harness, you rightfully said, to automate and standardize the processes. Really looking for those levers that will create the big waves.
Yeah, definitely. I think mindset is extremely important. Mindset combined with the automation and the tool chain. Many times, like, it's hard to change the mindset if you don't give people the tool, because then they say it's too hard to achieve what I want to achieve, and then they won't change their approach. So if you combine the two and show them the path, how you guys did it, like, starting with your own internal platform engineering group and then moving from there, that makes sense. What advice would you give to people about evaluating new products and tools in this space?
Always go in with an open mind. So when you're walking around, particularly like if you're walking around the expo here, obviously go stop at the Harness booth, check out the Squid Games theme that they have. It's quite fun. But also wander around and make sure to check in at the tiny booths. Somebody that's still in a startup phase. That's kind of how we actually came across Harness many years ago. It was either this event or the one that's, or at KubeCon, came across the Harness booth. You're still very early on, but like, that's a great idea. And you kind of keep tabs on them. At the time, where I was, we already had a very mature process, but Harness always stuck in my head. And when it came to an opportunity to be able to start anew, made a call and obviously kept going from there. But having somebody that's really willing to like be your partner in this whole process too is very important. Changing the entire way that an organization builds, deploys, tests, is gathering audit requirements, and all of that, it's a huge deal. It's a very tough undertaking to really kind of make a big leapfrog, or a big leap in that space. So having a partner that's kind of willing to go to the wall with you and help has been huge. And we've had that from your team. I know some folks that are here in the audience listening as well. And it's been great to work with in the fact that, especially now, Harness has gone through it with us, we've gone through it with many others. It's good to have that experience to lean on too, because you can't know it all.
Yeah, a lot of large enterprises, when they're starting this journey, transformation journey, rely on other large enterprises because they feel that they can actually help them scale, right, and operate at scale. But the challenge with dealing with a large enterprise is that they are very set in their ways, rightfully so, because they have to standardize as well, right? But working with an organization that's growing, that's thinking, and more importantly, rethinking how things are done, where you have the ability to have a conversation and influence their roadmap and product capabilities, that goes a long way, because every enterprise has these unique areas that have to be catered to, right? And that's where a partnership with Harness that Marriott International has is really good, because we can come and we can talk about, hey, we have a problem. And you may not have a solution, but you will come up with a solution and you will work with us, right? And then that solution goes mainstream and it works with others as well. That agility generally comes from smaller organizations that are more innovative.
And we take a lot of pride in it, and even as we get bigger, we've set up Harness in like multiple parallel startups so that we can retain that agility and ability to innovate very fast, working with the industry, working with partners. We really appreciate the innovation partnership as well. Thank you so much for joining us today here and sharing your story and your partnership with Harness and how we are able to help here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this session today. Hope you had a great conference and a good, nice trip home soon as well.